1 Kings chapter 20. وبن-hadad melech Aram, and Ben-hadad the king of Aram, qabath et kol helo, gathered all his army. Uthalothim, Uthanaim melech Hito, Usus Warakab, and 32 kings with him, and horse and chariot. Wayal, and he went up. Wayathar al Shomron, and he besieged over Shomron. Wayelahem bah, and he battled against it. Wayishlach malakim el Achab melech Yisrael, and he sent messengers to Achab, king of Yisrael, ha'ir, to the city. Wayomer lo, and he said to him, Ko amar Ben-hadad, thus Ben-hadad hath said, Kasapeka udhavaka lihu, thy silver and thy gold, for me it is. Wanathaka uvanaka hatovim lihem, and thy women and thy sons, the good ones, for me they are. Wayan melech Yisrael wayomer, and the king of Yisrael responded, and he said, Kidvaraka Adoni Hamelech, like thy word, my lord the king. Lekani ukol hatarli, for thee I am, and all which is for me. Wayathubu hamalakim, and the messengers returned. Wayomeru, and they said, Ko amar Ben-hadad le'amor, thus Ben-hadad hath said, saying, Ki shalahati eleka le'amor, kasapaka udahabaka, wanathaka wabanaka lititen. As I have sent to thee, saying, Thy silver and thy gold, and thy women and thy sons, for me thou shalt give. Ki imka et machar, except, like the time tomorrow, eshelah et avadai eleka, I shall send my servants to thee, v'hippashu et betaka, and they shall search thy house, v'hetbate avadaka, and the houses of thy servants, v'haya kol Muhammad eneka, yashimu b'yadam v'laqahu, and it shall be, every precious thing or pleasant thing, desirable thing, in thy eyes, they shall set in their hand, and they shall take. Wayiqrah melech Yisrael l'kol dhiqnei haaretz, and the king of Yisrael called to all the elders of the land. Wayomer da'ona urahu ki ra'ad mvakesh, and he said, Know ye now, and see ye, that this one is one seeking evil. Ki shalach elai, for he sent to me, Lenathai ulevanai ulekasapi ulidhahabi, for my women and for my sons, and for my silver, and for my gold, ולא מנעתי ממנו, and I withheld not from him. ויאמרו אלי וכל הזקנים וכל העם, and all the elders and all the people said to him, אל תשמע ולא תאבד, hearken thou not, and thou shalt not be willing. ויאמר למלאך בן-הדד, and he said to the messengers of Ben-Hadad, אמרו לאדוני המלך, say ye to my lord the king, כל אשר שלחת אל עבדך בראשונה אעשה, all which thou hast sent to thy servant in the first, I shall effectuate. והדבר הזה לא אוכל לעשות, and this word I am not able to effectuate. וילכו המלאכים ויתיבוהו דבר, and the messengers went, and they returned him a word. וישלח אלי בן-הדד, and Ben-Hadad sent to him. ויאמר, and he said, כה יעשון לי אלוהים, וכה יוסיפו, אם ישפוק עפר שומרון, לשעלים לכל העם אשר ברגלי. Thus may the gods effectuate to me, and thus may they add, if the dust of Shomron clap to the hollows of the hands for all the people which are at my feet. ויען מלך ישראל ויאמר דברו, אל יתהלל חוגר כמפתח. And the king of Israel responded, and he said, word ye, let not the one girding boast like the one putting off. ויהי כשמוע את הדבר הזה, and it was as his hearing this word. והוא שותהו והמלאכים בסוכות, also he was one drinking, he and the kings in the Sukkot, or pavilions. ויאמר אל עבדי ושימו, and he said to his servants, set ye. וישימו על העיר, and they set over the city. והנה נביא אחד, and behold one prophet, ניגש אל אחאב מלך ישראל, he approached to Ahab, king of Israel. ויאמר, and he said, כה אמר יהוה, thus Yahweh hath said, הראית את כל ההמון הגדול הזה, is it that thou hast seen all this big tumult? הנני נותנו בידך היום, behold me, one giving it into thy hand today. וידעת כי אני יהוה, and thou shalt know that I am Yahweh. ויאמר אחאב במי, and Ahab said, by means of whom? ויאמר כה אמר יהוה, and he said, thus Yahweh hath said, בנהרי שרי Hamdinot, by the lads of the princes of the provinces. Wayomer, and he said, Mi ehsor hamil hama, who shall bind the battle? Wayomer hata, and he said, thou. Wayipqod et nagare share hamdinot, and he mustered the lads of the princes of the provinces. Wayehu Mahataim Thanaim Uthalothim, and they were 230. Wa'acharehem Paqad et kol ha'am kol b'nei Yisrael Shiva'at halafim, and after them he mustered all the people, all the sons of Yisrael, 7,000. Vayeshehu bathohrayim, and they went out in the noon times. Uben-Hadad shot shikor basukot, and Ben-Hadad was one drinking drunk in the Sukkot or pavilions, who were hamlachim thalothim uthanaim melech ozeroto. He and the kings, 32 kings, helping him. Vayeshu, and they went out. Nagare share hamdinot, the lads of the princes of the provinces went out. Barishona, in the first. Vayishlah Ben-Hadad, and Ben-Hadad sent. Vayagidu lo lemor, and they told to him, saying, Anashim Yashu Mishomaron, men have come out from Shomron. Wayomer, and he said, Im l'shalom yashahu tipashum hayim, ve'im l'milchama yashahu hayim tipashum. And he said, if for peace they have come out, seize ye them alive, and if for battle they have come out alive, seize ye them. Wehelle yashahu min ha'ir, and these they went out from the city. Nagare share hamdinot, the lads of the princes of the provinces. Wahahayil atra acharehem, and the army which was after them. Wayaku isha isho, and they smote each man his man. Wayanusu Aram, and Aram they fled. Wayardafim Yisrael, and Yisrael pursued them, chased them. Wayemalet Ben-Hadad melech Aram, and Ben-Hadad king of Aram escaped. Alasus Waparashim, upon a horse with horsemen. Wayesheh melech Yisrael, and the king of Yisrael went out. Wayach et hasus ve'et harakab, and he smote the horse and the chariot. V'hika b'haram makkah gedolah, and he smote among Aram a big slaughter. Vayigash hanavi el melech Yisrael, and the prophet approached to the king of Yisrael. Vayomer lo, and he said to him, Lech hitahazak, go thou and strengthen thou thyself. Wada ureh, et atra ta'asher, and know thou, and see thou, what thou shouldst effectuate. Ki litathu vatahashana meleka haram ole aleka, because for the return of the year the king of Aram is one coming up over thee. وعبد ملك Haram Amaru Elaiu, and the servants of the king of Aram, they said to him, Elohe Harim, Elohehem. Their God is God of mountains. Alakin Hazaku Mimenu. On account of this, they prevailed, or they were strong beyond us. Wulam nilahem hitam bamishor imaloh nehezak mehem. And perhaps we battle with them in the plain, if we would not be strong beyond them. وَيَتَحَدَّى هَذَا عَشَيْ, and this word effectuate thou. Haser hamalakim ishmim qomo. Turn thou away the kings, each one from his place. Washim pahot tahatehem, and set thou captains or governors in their places. Wahata timnalaka, and thou shalt number for thee Hail ka Hail, an army like the army. Hanofel mehotak, the one falling from with thee. Wasus kasus warakab karakab, and horse like the horse, and chariot like the chariot. Winilla hamahotam bamishor, and we would fight them in the plain. Imaloh nehazak mehem, if we would not be strong beyond them. Vayishma al-qolam vayashken, and he listened to their voice, and he effectuated thus. Vayahi litathu vatahashana, and it was for the return of the year. Vayifqod Ben-Hadad et Haram, and Ben-Hadad mustered Aram. Vayal Afeqah, and he went up to Afeq, Lamilhama im Yisrael, to battle with Yisrael. Ubene Yisrael hotapakadu ukolakalu, and the sons of Yisrael were mustered, and they were victualled. Wayelaku liqarahatam, and they went to meet them. Wayahanu bene Yisrael negadam, and the sons of Yisrael encamped before them. Kithane hashipe izim, like two small flocks of goats. Waharam milahu et harish, and Aram, they filled the earth. Vayigash isha Elohim, and the man of the God approached. Vayomer Elimelech Yisrael, and he said to the king of Yisrael, Vayomer Ko amar Yahweh, and he said, thus Yahweh hath said, Yagan atrahamaru haram Elohe harim Yahweh, because of that Aram they have said, God of mountains is Yahweh. Elohe amaqimahu, and he is not God of the deep valleys. ונתתי את כל ההמון הגדול הזה בידך. Also, I have given all this big tumult into thy hand. וידעתם כי אני Yahweh, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh. ويحنوا ألا نكح ألا, and they encamped these against these. Shiva'at Yamim, 7 days. ويحيى بيوم الشبيعي, and it was in the 7th day. وتقرب الملحمة, the battle was approached or joined. ويكو بني إسرائيل את הרם מהאלף רגלי ביום אחד, and the sons of Yisrael smote Aram 100,000 footmen in 1 day. וינוסו הנותרים אפקה, and they fled, the remaining ones did, to Apek, El Ha'ir, to the city, Watipol Hahoma, and the wall fell, Al Esherim, Wishiva Elefahish, Hanotarim, upon 27,000 men remaining. Ben-Hadad Nas, and Ben-Hadad fled. ويابوه El Ha'ir, Heder Bahadur, and he came to the city, a room in a room. Wayomeru Eliu Avadau, and his servants said to him, Hinne Nahshamanu, behold now, we have heard, Ki Malachi Bet Yisrael, Ki Malachi Hesedehem, that the kings of the house of Yisrael, that kings of loving kindness they are, Nashim Nah Shakim B'motanenu, let us now set for us sackcloth in our loins, Wahavalim B'roshenu, and cords in our heads. W'neshe El Melech Yisrael, and we go out to the king of Yisrael. Ulai Yehayeh et nafsheka, perhaps he shall cause our soul to live. Vayahgaru shakim b'motnehem, and they girded sackcloths in their loins. Wahavalim b'rahshehem, and cords in their heads. Vayavohu el melech Yisrael, and they came to the king of Yisrael. Vayomeru, and they said, Abdaka Ben-Hadad Amar, Tehina Nafshi, thy servant Ben-Hadad hath said, let live now my soul, let my soul now live. Wayomer, and he said, Ha'odenu hay, is it that yet he is living? Ahihu, my brother he is. Wahanashim yinahashu wayamaharu wayahallatu hamimenu, and the men, they were tricky or observed signs, and they hasted, and they caught up. Is it from him? Wayomeru Achika Ben-Hadad. And they said, Thy brother Ben-Hadad. Wayomer. And he said, Bohu Kahuhu. Come ye, take ye him. Wayeshe Elau. And he went out to him. Ben-Hadad did. Wayalehu alahammerkava. And he brought him up upon the chariot. Wayomer Elau. And he said to him, He'arim atralakahabi mehetahabika Athib, the cities which my father took from thy father, I return. Who thought Tashim Lakabadamashak Katara Shamahabi Beshomaron, and streets thou shalt set for thee in Damascus, like my father set in Shomron. Wahani Babbarit Ashalhaka, and I, it seems to be Ahab speaking, by the covenant I shall send thee. Waykarot lo berit, wayeshalhehu, and he cut for him a covenant, and he sent him off. Wish ehad mibne hanbihim, and one man from the sons of the prophets, Amar el re'ehu bidvar Yahweh, he said to his neighbor by the word of Yahweh, Hakenina, smite thou me now. Wayamahen haish lahakoto, and the man refused to smite him. Wayomer lo, and he said to him, Yarana atralo shama'ata b'kol Yahweh, because of that thou hast not hearkened by the voice of Yahweh. Hinnaka holek mehiti wihikacha harye. Behold, thou art one going from with me, and the lion shall smite thee. Wayelek, and he went, meeth the law from beside him. Wayemtaehu harye, wayakehu, and the lion found him, and he smote him. Wayimthah isha acher, and he found another man. Wayomer hakenina, and he said, Strike thou me now. Wayakehu haish hake wafatho, and he smote him, the man did, smitingly and bruisingly. Wayelech hanavi, and the prophet went. Wayamod lamelech alhadark, and he stood for the king upon the way. Wayethapesh bafer al-enau, and he disguised himself by means of the bandage upon his eyes. Wayahyahamelech over, and it was the king, was one passing by. Wuhu tha'ak elhamelech, and he cried out to the king. Wayomer, and he said, Abdaka yashah beqerbaham milhama, thy servant went out in the midst of the battle. Whinne ishasar, and behold, a man turned aside. Vayaveh Elai Ish, and he brought to me a man. Vayomer, and he said, Shemor et ha-ish hadeh, keep thou this man. Im hipaked yipaked, if musteringly he be mustered lost, wahayata nafshaka tahat nafsho, then thy soul shall be in place of his soul. O kikara kasap tithakol, or a talent of silver thou shalt weigh. Wayahi abdaka oshe henna wa henna, and thy servant was one effectuating to hear and to hear. Wuhu, and he, where is he? Or there is not him. Wayomer Elai melech Yisrael, and the king of Yisrael said to him, Ken mithapataka ata harathata, thus thy judgment thou hast sharpened or decreed. Vayemaher, and he hurried. Vayasar et haper, and he removed the bandage. Me'ale enau, from upon his eyes. Vayakeroto melech Yisrael, and the king of Yisrael recognized him. Ki mehanavim hu, that from the prophets he was. Vayomer Elai ko amar Yahweh, and he said to him, thus Yahweh hath said, Yagana shillahata et yisherami, miyad, because of that thou hast sent the man of my devotion to destruction from a hand. Wahayata nafshaka tahat nafsho, also thy soul shall be in place of his soul. Wa'ammaka tahat ammo, and thy people in place of his people. Vayelek melech Yisrael alabeto sar wazaef, and the king of Yisrael went upon his house, stubborn, resentful, and raging. Vayavo Shomeron, and he came to Shomeron.